Hey, what's up everyone? James here, and we are finally back covering IDW'S Beast Wars. If you are new here or you need to catch up, the playlist to Beast Wars as always will be in the description box and in a pinned comment down below. So, picking up where we last left off, Optimus Primal has gotten tired of playing defense, playing it safe. His initial plan after crash landing on the planet was to just hunker down, sit safely behind their shields, and study the planet until they could send a transwarp beacon back to their time. But that plan hasn't worked out well for them. Nix got captured and tortured, Dinobot after joining them was nearly killed when the Predacons tried to take their ship, Black Arachnia penetrated their defenses, and almost took control of the rest of the Maximal protoform pods. All this has made Optimus Primal realize it's time for them to strike back. They're going to get the golden disc. Rattrap makes it clear that he's against it because he believes they shouldn't put themselves at risk. However, Dinobot tells him that Megatron having the golden disc gives him a considerable advantage. He tells the story of how Cybertron discovered it and how Megatron came to know about it. He explains that it began with an energon collector mining an asteroid. He came across a crashed probe. This probe is the Voyager spacecraft that appeared on the Beast Wars show. In the wreckage of the probe, this collector found the golden disc. He brought it to the Wheeljack Science Ministry. Now it's cool to see another OG Autobot, like when we saw Ironhide at the story's beginning. Wheeljack and the other scientists discovered that the disc was ancient and was saturated with Unspace energy. Before we go any further, I want to explain precisely what Unspace energy is because it will be a big part of this series later. So Unspace has many names: transwarp space, subspace, fold space, and more. It's a void of nothingness that lives outside standard space and time. It exists between the infinite dimensions, acting as a buffer of the Transformers multiverse. Some well-known Cybertronian technology uses the properties of Unspace, such as space bridges, which allow travelers and objects to travel space instantly, teleporting from one place to another. We saw this in the original Transformers show. The Maximals and Predacons ships use transwarp drives that uses Unspace energy to time travel. Transformers use subspace storage pockets to store their personal weapons and items in Unspace. For example, that's where Optimus's trailer goes every time he transforms out of his semi-mode. Transformers that can change their size, they put their mass or take it from Unspace. Whether it's shrinking like Soundwave or Blaster when they transform into a cassette player, or enlarging like Astrotrain, who enlarges himself to transport a convoy of Decepticons. So to Wheeljack and the other scientists, the golden disc being covered in Unspace energy was a clear indicator that it had traveled through time more than once. The Ministry managed to decode one of the files, and we don't find out what was revealed, but as Dinobot puts it, it was significant. But instead of sharing the discovery and the important findings with the people of Cybertron, they chose to downplay it and keep it to themselves. One of the scientists, however, disagreed with this decision and tried to get the Ministry to reverse that decision. And when they did not, he took matters into his own hands. He decided to turn to a Predacon who was making a name for himself: Galavar. He was looking for help in stealing the disc and was planning on not keeping it for himself, but sharing it with the people. But as we know, Galavar, now Megatron, had his own plans. Dinobot tells the Maximals that just one of the disc files led them to this time and planet with a vast energon cache. Who knows what other secrets it may contain? This is why they need to take the risk of retrieving it. Optimus then lays out all their objectives in the attack. The first is taking out the Darkseid's transwarp capabilities. The second is retrieving or destroying the golden disc. And the last objective is to do as much damage as possible to the Predacons' equipment. If they're successful while the Predacons recover, they'll focus on retrieving the protoform pods and repairing the Axelon. Dinobot believes though they must do more, like kill as many Predacons as possible, which is definitely a Dinobot thing to say. However, Optimus disagrees, and I like what he says here. He says because taking a life leaves scars. Rattrap asks how exactly they will make it there, and this is where Optimus reveals their new transportation, an escape pod they refitted into a shuttle. As they're heading to the Predacon ship in this shuttle, Razorbeast is unsure of this plan, because he doesn't think all the Predacons are bad, since remember in the last video, Scold saved him and they became friends. Now Optimus lays out everyone's part in this attack. Nynx and Rattrap are going to sneak into the ship. Once they're in the ship, Nynx will destroy the Predacons' transwarp drive, and Rattrap will go after the golden disc. The rest of the Maximals will draw the attention and battle the Predacons, distracting them until both their objectives are complete. Meanwhile, at the dark side, Scorponok is whipping the Predacons into shape, taking them through some training. Terrorsaur eventually gets tired of it, and he tells them all that he is tired of no action and tired of Megatron being only focused on the golden disc. He says it's time Megatron was replaced by a leader with vision. What Terrorsaur doesn't know is Megatron is right behind him. Megatron challenges Terrorsaur to prove himself and tries to take his head. Terrorsaur pleads to Megatron that he didn't mean it and just meant to say they should destroy the Maximals. He tries to transform and fly away, but Megatron's jaws reach him. He smashes Terrorsaur to the ground and explains to him that the Maximals are cowards and their time will come. Instead of wasting Energon trying to destroy them, he'd rather focus on the disc since it already has shown him fragments of the future. What Megatron is referring to is in the last video, he was able to decrypt one of the files on the disc that revealed a message that presumably was from a future version of himself. Megatron tries to execute Terrorsaur. He unleashes a blast from his T-Rex head cannon. Surprisingly, Tarantulas saved him, using his new portable air bubble device. He reminds Megatron that Terrorsaur is still useful, so Megatron decides to spare him. What's funny here is Tarantulas didn't save Terrorsaur out of the goodness of his heart. He tells Terrorsaur that if Megatron blasted him, there would have been no functional parts left of his body for his experiments. All I'll say is, this won't be the last time we'll see these two when it comes to experiments. For those of you who know the story, don't say anything, you know what I mean. As the Maximals approach the dark side, Primal tells Dinobot to land on the side of the mountain, but Dinobot reveals he modified the ship with some firepower, so he is coming in blasting, firing an array of rockets. Luckily for the Predacons, Waspinator hears the missiles coming and pushes the rest of the Predacons out of the way in time. But when they rise, standing over them is Optimus Primal, demanding to know where Megatron is. The Transformers will return after these messages. Hey, James here, and I hope you're enjoying the video. If you would like to be a big part of this channel's content and have behind the scenes access to the channel, go ahead and join my Patreon. I have 2 tiers, each with an array of benefits. The link will be in the description box and in the pinned comment down below. With that out of the way, let's get back to the video. We now return to the Transformers. In the dark side, Megatron's frustration is boiling over with his work on the golden disc proving fruitless. At that moment, the ship's AI informs him of the Maximals' attack. As he comes out of the ship roaring for the destruction of the Maximals, he is immediately blasted by an Energon blast from Dinobot. Megatron is surprised to see that he still lives. Now, Nynx and Rattrap do their job, try to sneak onto the ship, but Black Arachnia appears, blocking their path. Until Cheetor comes charging in to take her on, wanting a rematch. Nynx and Rattrap successfully sneak into the dark side and split up. Nynx finds the transwarp drive room, but before she can attempt to destroy it, Tarantulas catches her off guard, trapping her with his portable bubble device. However, Nynx has some firepower this time, unlike the last time they met. She fires her wrist blaster and destroys his new device. As that fight is going on, Rattrap successfully finds the golden disc in Megatron's chamber, but before he takes it, he wants to verify that it is the real thing. Meanwhile, outside the dark side, the fight between the Maximals and Predacons rages on. Optimus Primal is battling Waspinator and he quickly takes him out. When Primal asks who's next, Scold steps in, saying me. Now, we know Scold is no slouch and is physically the strongest of the Predacons. She brings the fight to Optimus Primal. At the same time, Razorbeast and Terrorsaur are fighting, and Razorbeast gains the upper hand and stuns Terrorsaur. He then notices the fight between Primal and Scold. He steps between them and tries to tell Scold the Maximals aren't her enemies. He explains that even though they were the ones who attacked, no one was seriously hurt, only stunned, and the Maximals are fighting defensively, not offensively. This convinces Scold to stop fighting for the moment, and as he's about to reveal they only came for the stolen golden disc, he is suddenly grabbed by Terrorsaur. Initially, Razorbeast believes Terrorsaur will drop him out of the sky and is confident he'll survive. However, Terrorsaur reveals that isn't his plan and informs Razorbeast about the floating islands with volatile energon crystals. He drops Razorbeast right on top of them Scold yells no, then an explosion occurs, and that's the end of Razor Beast. Back at the battle between Megatron and Dinobot, who are both fighting in their dino forms, Megatron notices Dinobot is favoring his right side, still not fully repaired from his near fatal injury by Tarantulas. Megatron wraps his jaws around Dinobot's torso, crushing him. But Dinobot isn't going down easily. He stabs his Psycarbon blade into Megatron's side. Unfortunately, it doesn't slow down Megatron. He transforms and pulls the blade out and has it at Dinobot's throat. Luckily, Optimus Primal intervenes. Now, as the battle between both groups is going on, Scold is hiding. The loss of Razor Beast traumatized her. She's afraid. Pterosaur approaches her. He demands she goes back out on the battlefield and fights before he does to her what he did to Razor Beast. Now, saying that to Scold was a big mistake. She becomes enraged, tears open Pterosaur's chest, and rips out his spark. This was freaking badass. Scold is a beast. Standing over his sparkless body, she says, "I always hated you." Back to the fight with Primal and Megatron. Primal is taking a beating. He's trying to buy more time for Nynx and Rattrap to achieve their objectives. Inside the dark side, Nynx successfully destroys the ship's transwarp drive. Tarantulas becomes furious and leaps toward her. Nynx uses her taser designed just for him and incapacitates Tarantulas, finally getting the payback for the torture she endured from him. Rattrap informs her over comms that he's trapped because Megatron's chamber went into lockdown after he took the golden disc. Outside the ship, the fight between the Maximals and Predacons goes back and forth. Rhinox tries to convince Scold that they don't have to fight, but she is just full of rage right now. She blames the Maximals for Razor Beast's death because in her eyes, if they didn't attack, he wouldn't have died. When it comes to Dinobot, he's still dealing with his injury. Waspinator tries to take advantage and attacks him, but let's be honest, even an injured Dinobot is more than enough to take on Waspinator. He blasts Waspinator with his optic beams and takes him out. Nynx radios to Optimus that she's going to need some brute force to help Rattrap get free. This is where Optimus now goes on the offensive by giving Megatron a sweet uppercut out of nowhere. He tells Megatron that he was letting him beat him down, pretending to be weak, and mentions a warrior from an alien race created this strategy long ago. The name of it is the Rope-a-Dope. The alien Primal is referring to is the great Muhammad Ali, who made this strategy and used it against George Foreman in their heavyweight championship fight, dubbed Rumble in the Jungle. As Megatron prepares to unleash an energy blast, Optimus leaps toward him and impales Megatron in the head with his dual blades, causing the explosion to backfire and blow his head off. Scold is continuing to beat down Rhinox. She yells at him to fight back, but Rhinox refuses. Now, there's a theory out there that Rhinox is secretly a Predacon spy. What he says next to Scold gives some credence to that theory. He says that Maximals and Predacons are more alike than they care to admit, and he reveals that he's befriended and even loved some Predacons in his life, that he would be devastated too if he saw any of them die. Scold stops her attacks and tells Rhinox to leave before she changes her mind. Back in the dark side, Optimus Primal helps Nynx get Rattrap free. As they try to escape, Megatron traps them in a force field. Initially, he believes he is victorious and relishes how he will tear them limb from limb after he is repaired. However, Primal crushes those dreams when he reminds Megatron he holds all the cards. All the golden ones to be exact. He threatens Megatron that he'll destroy the golden disc if he doesn't let them go. He tells Megatron he might think to use his transwarp drive to go back in time and steal it again, but he informs him his ship's transwarp drive is destroyed. Also, even if he manages to take over the Maximals Axelon, the self-destruct will trigger if he uses the transwarp drive without Primal. Megatron becomes filled with rage. Primal offers to give him the golden disc if he lets them go. Megatron begrudgingly accepts the deal. Once the Maximals are aboard their shuttle and on their way back to their ship, Rattrap reveals he made a copy of the golden disc. Also, Optimus reveals to the crew there is no self-destruct on the Axelon. He bluffed Megatron. After the Maximals leave, Megatron tells Tarantulas his spark is filled with rage. Now, this moment is a moment of growth for Megatron. He explains he's angry with himself. He recognizes that he underestimated the Maximals, believed he could easily predict their movements, but was blinded by his ambitions and was haunted by his future. he decides deciphering the disc is no longer his top priority. He says, now more than anything else, I want to take Optimus Primal's head and see the light fade from his eyes. I will have this, so swears Megatron. Now from there we go to an epilogue. Remember what I said about experiments with Pterosaur and Tarantulas? We go to Tarantulas in his lab with Pterosaur's dead body on his table. He says, Pterosaur, I knew you would be the first to fall, but good news, there can be life beyond death. And that's the end of the Maximals Strike Back. This was a long video. If you made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. Hit the like button and comment down below your thoughts on this arc. Other than that, be on the lookout for the next video. Have a fantastic day, and always remember, every day to maximize and go beyond. See you later, Beyonders.